Dame calling out the Blazers' home court disadvantage this season without fans. Is he right? And former NBA vet turned social media superstar Rex Chapman joins us to talk about his inspiring second act. So get hyped, but keep it safe there, because the jump starts now. That hurts. That looks like it hurts. I'm not going to lie.
That's a jump right there.
They're trying to jump. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols alongside the future Hall of Famer Vince Carter, also the host of the Hoop Collective podcast over there, Brian Windhorst, live from the Cobra Dome. Gentlemen, there are a million things to love about Ja Morant if you're a basketball fan, but his confidence has to be pretty near the top of the list. Remember back to draft night a couple of years ago when it felt like the entire planet was focused on Zion Williamson, labeling him the most intriguing draft pick since LeBron James? Well, it was Ja who declared he thought he could be Rookie of the Year. And then he went out and did it. Ja is also the guy who in his first season trash-talked James Harden, got into a social media argument with Steph Curry. Basically, the dude has no fear. So it was hardly a surprise earlier this week when on a TNT broadcast, Shaquille O'Neal asked Ja where he would rank himself among the league's point guards. A category that includes Steph, Dame Lillard, Luka Doncic, Chris Paul, James Harden, among others. And Ja answered, quote, top 5 for sure. And by the way, it's one thing for him to say that at all in just his second year in the league. It's another when you consider he said it coming off the Grizzlies' loss to the Knicks, a game in which Ja scored a grand total of 8 points on 2 for 14 shooting. Honestly, if it was any other player, I think those comments would have drawn a full-scale internet roasting. But with Ja, all anyone wanted to do was see him go try to back his words up. And boy, did he stake his claim at that last night. In a game against Minnesota that was so fun, no one would have complained if it had gone 5 quarters. Morant and rookie Anthony Edwards went back and forth. They went back. Oh, yeah. And forth. And back again. Yeah, gonna just get that in there. Edwards would end up with a career-tying 42 points in this game, but even more impressive was how he scored. Just ridiculous efficiency, going 17 for 22 from the floor, 8 of 9 from 3. He also added 7 assists, 6 rebounds, which put him on a list with KD and LeBron as the only teenagers to ever notch at least 45 and 5 in an NBA game. It's been so fun watching Edwards since the All-Star break. Even his injuries and some internal turmoil have cracked this Wolves season. Edwards has shown a tremendous learning curve and a toughness you just can't teach. He leads all rookies in scoring, and with each passing game has shown more and more confidence. Last night, after the Wolves fell into a 13-point hole, it was Edwards who sparked them in the third quarter. It was extremely impressive. Although, guess who was also plenty confident on the other side? Yeah, again, Ja Morant, who last night just kept going. He nailed 2 step-backs in the final 3 minutes. He then assisted on Desmond Bane's dagger. The Memphis win moved the Grizzlies up to 8th in the West, a spot that, if it sticks, would give them advantageous positioning in the play-in tournament. And Ja himself had 37 points, 10 assists, and an answer to anyone who had mocked his bravado in that interview with Shaq. So is Ja Morant a top 5 point guard in the NBA? Not by most people's measure, but it's hard not to love that he thinks he is. I do want to switch gears, guys, back to Anthony Edwards, who has been, as I mentioned, just on an absolute tear since the break. Now, LaMelo Ball has appeared to be in the pole position for the Rookie of the Year award, even though he missed a chunk of time this season. But I gotta ask, the 1998-1999 Rookie of the Year, Vince Carter, is Edwards closing the gap on LaMelo here?
He absolutely is closing the gap right now. He's playing great basketball. And I said some months ago, I said, yes, LaMelo Ball at that time was the Rookie of the Year, leading in the Rookie of the Year voting. But if Edwards continued to play the basketball that he's playing, he's going to make people think a little harder about that award. And he's doing that right now, playing great basketball. And like you said, he's extremely confident. He knows what he wants to do, and he knows what he can do on the floor. And it's not just dunking the ball anymore. 8 from 9 from 3. Yeah, he's confident.
So I would go so far as to say that was one of the greatest shooting performances I've ever seen last night. He scored 42 points without making a free throw. That is just an unheard of number, even for a veteran, much less a rookie who at times this year has struggled shooting the ball. So he's been extraordinarily impressive. Now, the big thing in LaMelo's side on this, and probably why I'm going to vote for him for Rookie of the Year, is that he impacted winning from day one. One of the rarest things a rookie can do is impact winning, and that's why LaMelo is probably getting this. And if you look at the lines in the sports books, it's like -700 or 800 for LaMelo, even now, even after this game last night, and that's because it's going to be this way. But his second half, forget about the award. His second half is really getting the Wolves fans excited, and they have elected to keep playing. And I commend them in a way, although I have to say, it's fascinating what's happened here. You know, they've won 6 of their last 10 games. Part of it's because they're healthy. Part of it's because he's playing so well. Part of it's because their new coach, Chris Finch, has made some moves that have really got them going. But they went from being sort of comfortably in the top 3 to now they're only a game out of 6th overall. Now, you may say, well, what does that really matter ultimately? Well, for them, if they end up with a top 3 pick, they keep their pick.
I was going to say, I want to clarify
if it's 4 or
when you
worse,
said they were in the top
give it
3
away.
versus 6 overall. You're talking about the draft lottery. You're not talking about the standings.
Naturally, Rachel, but thank you for clarifying. So right now, as we sit here right now, they have a 42% chance of keeping their pick. But as you saw how tight those were, if they win even 2 more games, they could drop all the way down to 30%. And again, that's 42%, get a top 3 pick in this draft that's loaded, add another piece to this team, and potentially hit the ground running next year, or don't get your pick at all. So this has been great, but it's really fascinating in those standings now.
Yeah, and look, that pick would convey to Golden State if it does convey, and that is part of the the Wiggins and D'Angelo Russell deal. Vince, what do you think if you're on this team and you see this kid developing the way he is, again, sticking his nose in there possibly for Rookie of the Year and just getting his confidence, really becoming the kind of player they want him to be? Do you as an organization try to kind of slow that roll a little bit so you can keep your draft pick, or you just say, young man, go?
Being a veteran and a player in the locker room, when you have a lot of young guys coming in, I get concerned when you do that because you see where Edwards is trending right now, and that's upwards. He's playing great basketball. You don't want to scale him back. You want him to continue to gain his confidence so next year he hits the ground running. Yes, I know you want that spot, but let's say you, for some reason, scale him back and things don't work out next year. You want this team, this Wolves team, to come and play great basketball immediately next year, and they can do that by continuing to play. Yeah, in their mind, they might not make the playoffs, but why not set goals like, hey, let's get to this point. Let's play this style of basketball. This is how we want to play next year. Let's give them a sample size of who we can be next year from the beginning. So, it's a slippery slope, and I understand the organization side, but I just feel like you have to be careful when you have so many young guys on your roster and you're trying to find a free agent that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, bird in hand, right? I mean, this is a prospect you have. This is a great elite talent that you have. Let's work on developing him. I host the draft lottery every year. I can tell you, since they changed and flattened the lottery odds, there is a surprise all the time, every single year. So you can't just guarantee if we finish here, we're going to get this pick. It doesn't work that way anymore. So yes, Brian, of course, organization and teams are still trying to play the odds. It's not like they're not, but those odds have shifted. And I just think it's more valuable to develop the guy you have. He's so much fun. And Brian, I am glad you mentioned Chris Finch too. Here's a guy who got his job in a way that upset a lot of people around the league. And I think probably the Timberwolves would do things differently if they could do them over. That doesn't mean he's not a good coach. And he has been able to show with this team, he is a good coach, why Gerson Rosas wanted him, and what he can do if given a full season. I'm looking forward to seeing it next year. All right, let's move over to the Nets because James Harden spoke to the media today. This is the first time he's talked publicly since his hamstring setback. He said he is, quote, very confident he will return before the end of the regular season. Here's more from James.
For me, at this point in my career, I think, going into postseasons, basically since I've been in Houston and whatnot, I've been playing heavy minutes, whatever, just carrying the load. And this is an opportunity for me to get my body right going into the postseason with a clear mind and a clear body of, all right, you got 16 games to win. And that's the ultimate goal. That's, the reason why, I came to Brooklyn.
Brian Harden also said they don't have to worry about the skill part of the equation. You heard that at the top of the show. So do you agree health is the only thing that can keep the Wet Nets from winning a title this season?
Well, it's really important, obviously, because it's been something that they haven't been able to achieve almost all season. But to me, it's still going to come down to if they can put some defense together, because this is just an absolutely vicious offensive team. I've never seen a team like this offensively. But I think we just saw in their last 2 games against the Bucks, which right now looks like it could be a second-round opponent, they were not able to slow Giannis at all. And also Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday gave them problems. And so, I know that in the regular season, this year in the NBA especially, it's just been, I am going to outscore you. But historically, the playoffs, you have to play some level of defense. And the Nets are better on defense than a lot of people, including me, thought they would be when they put this team together. But the cohesion that they've lacked in playing and getting reps together to get some defensive chemistry, I think, is going to come right down to it along with health, because at some point, I promise you, they're going to have to get a few stops to win a big playoff game.
Absolutely. Health is number one to me. And I think if you're healthy, then you can kind of fix those things. I mean, you have veteran guys. It's not like you're waiting for a bunch of young guys with inexperience in the playoffs to teach them defense. Yes, you want them to play team defense. Maybe not individual defense will come about, but team defense. But if your guys aren't healthy, you might not get that maximum effort on the defensive end. Because we know you offensively, you're always going to give maximum effort. That's just the way it works. But defensively is what you want. So if these guys are healthy, you can kind of go to these veterans and say, hey, you want those 16 games that you just said? It only takes 16. Like you said, Brian, you're going to have to get a stop.
And look, we've looked over 6 months. That's our sample so far with this Nets team. I guess a little bit less since James wasn't there right at the beginning of the season. They've only had 6.5 games where their players have all been out on the court together. Now,
Gobert changed his shot. Here comes Joe running. Gives it to Clarkson. Back to Joe. Back to Clark. Behind the back pass. Niang. Bang!
Put that on the highlight reel. It's what you call a dime piece right here.
woo, someone take some fire extinguishers because the Jazz, beat the Spurs last night by 32 points. That was without Mike Conley, without Donovan Mitchell. With that win, they took back the top seed in the West over the Suns, who lost to the Hawks. Vince, do you think Utah will finish out with the top seed?
I think they can do it. They have a favorable schedule. I think they have an easier schedule than what Phoenix does going into the last couple of games. They're playing great basketball, led by that young man right there, Jordan Clarkson. Clarkson as their closer. Look for them to play. It's this question. I think they're doing enough to win. And we say don't watch the stats and don't watch the board to see what other teams are doing. But I feel like they win a couple of games. The last few games, it doesn't matter to them because they've done enough.
What's interesting is that they allow more fans in their building than most other in the league. So their home court is worth in a way more than other teams, and it's only going to get more. So they are extra incentivized to do it, Rach.
Well, we're going to talk about that coming up. So that was an excellent...
Greatest space makers I've ever seen, and good luck trying to defend that guy in space. He's going to get his shot off. It's just whether he's going to make it or not.
Ooh.
There's only two guys that come to mind. Kyrie Irving uses that move a lot, and then of course Steph Curry with the little jazzy with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen Harden do that sometimes too, but he's bigger, doesn't need to in the same way. You hear what that TikTok is though? That means it's Dame time. All right, Miss Fatigue. Jason Tatum been feeling really saucy lately. Put about 19 moves on the defender here before hitting the deep two. Brian, were all those really necessary?
Yes, Rachel, of course they were necessary. How else would he get on the jump?
Exactly.
Great job,
Good
Jason.
point.
It was a 30-point game. Show off.
He had him beat twice. He had him beat twice. He could have gotten the same layup 2 times. You can see here on the crossover right here. He has a layup there. Nah, he has a layup there. He said, "I'll take the fadeaway instead."
If you've got options, explore all your options.
Explore your options. I love it.
That's
absolutely.
Make taco time. Let's stay in Boston. A little garbage time, but look at Taco Fall picking on Mo Bamba. Vince, that was Nikola Jokic leg from Taco. Look at this.
Hey, I enjoy it. I tell you what, with the game like it is today, and some people can say, with the game like it is today, you're seeing 5 men who are now stretch fives.
Right.
And these bigs do work on their handles in practice. Believe it or not, they don't get to use it, but when the coach says it's okay, this is what you'll see.
Nice.
I've seen pivot feet before. That was one hell of a pivot foot. Look at the size of that pivot foot.
Yes.
Shaq couldn't make a move like that on those feet. Congrats, big man.
He definitely could not have, Brian. I'm with you on that. Settling. Speaking of Jokic, he had 4 dunks in the first quarter last night against the Knicks.
Man.
Maybe if Nikola Jokic was Taco Fall, is Jokic trying to be Vince Carter? Vince Carter?
Yeah. I mean, we jump about the same now.
That's you now.
Oh, did I say that? Sorry.
I don't believe that.
Yeah,
I'm like Patrick Beverly. I don't believe that.
I
still think you got him.
I'm not going to say it. Here we go. Lots of fun. I do want to get to a more serious topic, though, guys. Let's get to the ongoing drama with the Indiana Pacers and their coaching staff. First, we got a Woj report that head coach Nate Bjorkgren's future with the franchise is very uncertain. Now, Woj says the Pacers are suspending assistant coach Greg Foster for 1 game, finding Goga Bitadze for their heated exchange on the court. Foster was upset with the way Bitadze had not defended in the lane. Bitadze then went down on the other side of the court, yelled an expletive at the bench after he hit a 3. Vince, you know Greg Foster. What is your reaction to this situation?
That's the wrong guy to yell something to. But in his defense, every player needs a guy like Greg Foster. He is passionate about the game of basketball. He is old school basketball, and he's all about respect. He will respect you. And with everything going on in nonsense, and young guys can't handle that sometimes. But I feel like every team needs a Greg Foster on their team.
Well, Greg is one reacting to it. The players didn't react to it well. Not only Goga, the players didn't like it. And so I respect what Vince said about wanting to fire guys up. I don't think that this is the way to go about it. And I think at the end of the day, I don't know Greg like you do, Vince, but my guess is he would agree with you.
Yeah, and
no, 100%. I'm sorry to cut you off, Ray. I agree with you with that, and that's what I said. That's Greg being Greg, and he'll be the first to admit sometimes he'll go about it the wrong way. But I'm saying, as far as internally in the locker room, that's what he does. He was our coach in Atlanta, and we had a situation similar to this where he saved it for the locker room, and he got fired up in the locker room. I agree with you with not doing it on the court, and I'm sure he would admit that part. But I just feel like with guys now and how they are, and feel like they come in and they deserve the world from day one, you need a guy like that to kind of bring it back sometimes.
Yeah, it is more complicated, though, because, again, we keep hearing Nate Bjorkgren is having trouble because of his relationships with players. I'm not sure how much this helped. It might be like a time and place issue, like you guys are both saying. I want to get to what the Jump recommends for today, because this was so much fun. I got to join the All the Smoke podcast with my friends Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes. It dropped today. Shout out Gina. Here is a sneak peek from that episode. Take a listen.
How do you feel of being in the spotlight and being an example for young women that want to be in this space?
I hope that I can be a good example when I'm, every day when I'm out there.
Along with others like Doris Burke and
others. I was going
others.
to say, we're lucky. There's so many women, just at ESPN, but even across the board. That is a relief. And as I say, different from the women who were maybe a generation before me, where a lot of them, they were not the only one in the room. Sometimes they were the only woman in the room.
All the time, yeah.
And now I'm still the only woman in the room sometimes, but it's not all the time. And that makes a huge difference. I do think when you are a minority in the space, whether it is race or gender or whatever it is, you feel like you have to be perfect.
Right.
Tuesday, Dame tweeted in response to Portland not being allowed by local authorities to have any fans in the stands so far this season. He said, quote, "So we're going to be the only damn team in the whole league with no fans?" To which Jared Dudley replied, "Definitely not right. When we played Utah, they had like 9,000 in the arena. I bet they get 14K for the playoffs. Can't have that wide a range. I know NBA hands are tied, but there's definitely a competitive advantage, especially since Portland has no fans." Well, guess what? According to the Oregonian, the Blazers will reportedly be now allowed to host 10% of crowd capacity starting on Friday. Dame was asked about it last night. Here is what he said.
Dame, just wanted to get your thoughts on having fans back in the arena for Friday's game, and I'm curious if you felt like your tweet had anything to do with it.
I'm super excited. I think our record is much better on the road for a reason. We come in these other buildings and just having that fan energy, that real energy in the building, it feels like a competitive NBA game when the crowd is there, and it's fun. It feels normal. It's how the game is supposed to be played. And then we come home and it's just an empty, dead building. It's a noticeable difference. Like, you can feel it. And, each game that we played at home, and I think you can also see it. So I'm excited to have our fans back, especially.
Brian, you heard Dame refer to it. They are 21-13 on the road, but only 500 at home. And look, a lot of this is, as Jared Dudley referred to, it's state regulations. The NBA doesn't decide how many people are in every building. But what was your reaction to Dame's poll there? One tweet, and look what happened.
I wonder if Jared Dudley is happy that they're starting it against his Lakers. Maybe you should have asked to wait until next week. But, one of the reasons that the Blazers aren't so good at home is because they're not a great defensive team. However, I respect that the guys want energy. And regardless about whether there's 2,000 fans or 4,000 fans in the building and how it compares in the sound or whatever, it's going to uplift the players. And that energy for the players is what they're looking for. And look, Portland has always been one of the toughest places to play. They've had a winning record at home year after year after year, even when they haven't had good teams. So the fact that they have struggled at home, obviously there's something there. And so Dame is probably onto something. And I would watch out, Lakers, on Friday.
I was one of the guys that said from the bubble and in the beginning of the season, this is an opportunity for players to lock in to their craft and what they need to do and don't have to worry about the outside interference. Then you think about it a little more. After calling a game, not playing, calling the game in the empty building, I'm like, you have to find your own energy. And like he said, it's just dead in there. And it's nothing like having fans. And it's nothing like playing in your home building when you're on a run against a very good team. It's nothing like being on the road and they're booing you and talking bad and you go in there and shoot the deep three and go for 42. It's nothing like it. And he said it. It's dead. And we should have it. And it's a disadvantage for us. And now they get that opportunity, especially hosting a Laker team that's coming in the building.
And it's tough. There really isn't a great solution here, right? State governments are going to do what they think is best for the health of their citizens. There's different COVID rates in every state. There's different vaccination rates in every state. I will tell fans of a team that the states that we have seen follow allowing greater fans in the building are often states that have high vaccination rates. So I think that as teams encourage their fans to get vaccinated, that could be something that could then circle back and have a positive effect on the team as well. All right, guys, let's take a look at today's magic moment brought to you by Walt Disney World Resort. The Atlanta Hawks outscoring the Suns 38-15 in the fourth quarter to run away with that win last night. They've now picked up consecutive wins over the Blazers and Suns. They trailed the Knicks by just a half a game in the 4 spot in the East. Vince, you did, in fact, call that game last night. How dangerous are your old Atlanta Hawks?
I tell you what, man, it's a proud moment for me. Coming in 2 years ago, and we were just trying to build, and we're going to make the playoffs. We just have to build for it, and to now see everything come to fruition and seeing these young guys develop, seeing Trae Young turn into a unbelievable point guard. We knew he could score, we knew he could pass, but it's just understanding how to play the position. Now, with that being said, the bench. Hats off to the organization of going to get some scoring, some shooting, and has opened the floor up and made the game easier for their starters. It was a point where the score was 4-16. 4-16. And then, your starters with Trae Young playing 26 minutes only. And the bench went crazy. 74 bench points to Suns 36. That says it all. And if they can play like this, having confidence going into the playoffs, look out, because some teams might not want to play the Atlanta Hawks.
This is a hell of a roster. They've got talent up and down. When they bring in their second unit at the end of the first quarter, they're bringing like big-time dudes off the bench. It's hard to face that kind of onslaught. And then you got Trae, who's one of the most electric players in the league. And they're still missing DeAndre Hunter, who's in the process of having a breakout second year. We'll see if he's able to get back. But this is a team that is going to be a tough out in the playoffs. And I'm just anxious really to see Trae Young because, I don't know how he's such a wizard at drawing these fouls. I don't know how the officials are going to let him play in the postseason, but this is a guy who can score 45 at the drop of a hat, and he could be electrifying, and so I can't wait to see the Hawks in the postseason.
But, Wendy, the beautiful thing about it, I think if he does struggle in the playoffs as far as not getting those calls, the beautiful thing about it is having all the shooting. You have 5 guys, if I'm not mistaken, that has playoff experience. But having all of that shooting, if he can get off the ball when he's struggling or it gets double teamed and those guys start to shoot the ball like they did last night, things will progress for Trey, and you will see a breakout playoff experience for him instead of a rough one like
your Twitter timeline every day. One of the most popular folks on social media, Rex Chapman. Welcome to The Jump. It's so nice to see you.
Rachel, RJ, two of my favorite people. Man, it's hard to, I can't believe you're finished playing, RJ. I remember you from Moon Valley High School back in the day.
I remember
We're both finished playing? What?
Yeah. I remember that shot over the top in the postseason, the little pass over. That's still probably one of the biggest shots that I ever saw in my childhood.
We'll get there. I got to ask about the podcast, though, because Rex, you recently launched The Rex Chapman Show. It's a podcast on basketballnews.com with longtime Hollywood actor Josh Hopkins. So I wanted to ask why you decided to cross over into the podcast space with a good friend of yours.
Just something to do, really. I mean, it got to have something to do. The last year has been miserable.
Yep.
We thought, hey, it gives us a chance. If we can't be together in a room, we can do this. We've had on great people. Josh Hopkins it's the Rex Chapman Show with Josh Hopkins, by the way. He's my bestie, and we go back forever. He's from Kentucky, huge basketball fan, but he's an actor, Cougar Town, Quantico, Perfect Storm. You would know Josh. After the NBA, as you guys know well, I had painkiller problem. I lived on Josh's couch for a couple years in LA, and we developed such a strong friendship that we thought, hey, I know people in sports. He knows people in entertainment. Let's get together and do this.
It's interesting, Rex, too. I love how open you are talking about that period in your life, because I think it's something we don't talk about enough with athletes. You guys are handed these painkillers when you get injuries, especially later in your career. And it leads, in your case, to an opioid addiction, but you are far from the only one. I know you've talked about it before. How did that sort of process for you, hitting rock bottom the way you did? How did that change your perspective on life? Because I think that new perspective is what has appealed to so many on social media now.
Well, yeah, it's always kind of terrible to talk about, but it's necessary. I mean, you can either talk about it or not. And I feel like, that I know when I was searching and really struggling, I was looking for any kind of source of inspiration. And I heard it, a couple of my friends, a couple of coaches that I had over the years said things that stayed with me to help keep me, going through detox and rehab and all that stuff. And I thought, it would be kind of selfish of me to not share the story if I can and try to, I don't know, destigmatize the whole addiction thing a little bit.
The inspiration that you came out of that whole experience with and how inspirational you've been to others, I think it's so, so impressive, and turning something that was, I'm sure, one of the hardest moments of your life into something that is helping so many people now. Again, we don't talk about this stuff enough, and I really applaud you. So that was a very serious, important thing,
Rachel.
And now Richard's going to have to do something very
No.
silly.
Well, that's what I do, but ultimately,
That's what he does.
No, but Rex, real talk. The reason why it was so important for you is because I know we were talking off camera about, man, I can't believe, Richard, you're retired now, because you remember watching me play in high school in the Phoenix area when you guys were at your peak. But there's so many guys that I'm 40 that are just now starting to retire, or are about to retire. So for you to share your story and say, hey, guys, look, when you retire, even if you play 10, 12, you got money, you got this, you're going to go through some things. Mm-hmm. Even if you have all the money, even if you're broke, you're going to go through some things. So just letting people know it's okay to talk about it. If you developed an issue, if something happened, it's okay. And so your message, and I know you said it's tough to talk about, it is needed more than ever, because with all the social media, players sometimes want to hide. And I want to talk about your social media. How did it get to this spot? Because it's so funny when I'm in 6 different text chains with different teammates, with different friends. Your tweet pops up,
always popping up,
and it's like you're so on point, you're so critical, and it's not just funny. It's political. It's this. It's that. It just has a wide range, and which I think you are as a person. How did you kind of get into that and kind of know that you had I would say a gift? But social media is a gift.
Oh man, come on. Very sweet guys, but a complete accident. And all of the videos, I've got a little circle of friends that kind of shoot me videos, so it's pretty easy at this point. I just kind of caption them, pick and choose. But a few years ago, I really just wanted off social media. And it just the whole political landscape was toxic. There's so much hatred spewed. But to do this, kind of what we do, you need a little bit of a social media presence, they say. And just one day I came across a stupid video, a school of dolphins swimming into shore, a guy paddleboarding out. A dolphin jumped up, hit the dude in the chest. And I said to myself out loud, that's a charge. and I just tweeted it out. People thought it was kind of funny. You're only thinking basketball people are going to even know what you're talking about there. But it kind of took some legs. And from there, I started posting silly blocker charge videos. And then over time, you can only beat people over the head with that stuff so much. Mix in some dog videos, some feel-good videos. Just try to keep it light. And then pick your spots to, speak out on some things that you're passionate about.
Rex, do you have a favorite storyline this season?
Oh, man. Yeah, I do.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, the Phoenix Suns. There we go.
Two local boys I'm on with.
There we
this is
go.
so nice.
Hey, Chris Paul, of course, what can you say about him? What James Jones has done, Robert Sarver spending money to bring Chris in, DeAndre Ayton's growth, Monty Williams, what he's done with that team, Mikal Bridges. Yeah, I'm all about the Suns and the Nets. I'm kind of rooting for Stevie and them up there as well.
All right, it's a tradition here for special guests to play a few rounds of our game called What Were You Thinking? We dive deep in the archives. Your